Hey everybody, my name is Justin Bogard, and you are at the Real Estate Note Investing Be the Bank Meetup for March 10th. We're going to be talking about forbearances today in the mortgage industry and what's going on, and also bring up what we feel like first-time investors in performing loans should kind of look out for and what scenarios can happen. So stay tuned. Look forward to hearing from you soon. How's it going, Richard?
Pretty good, sir. Pretty good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, my friend. Looks like you got something warm on there out in California. What's going on?
I am. You guys are in the cold country, but we've just got some rainstorms rolling through here. And I live in an older house. It's a very nice house, but it's older and doesn't have a whole lot of insulation. So it gets chilly sometimes.
It's just funny. You're from California, and I see you wearing something warmer than I'm wearing.
I know.
Right now. It's just really odd.
You know, I'll add to that just a little bit. And 2 summers ago, I was in Thailand, and I was starting to go to northern Thailand. And all the locals, when I told them they were going to the north, they said, "Well, it's really cold up there." And I said, "Oh, how cold is it?" And we got up there, and it was 80 degrees during the day. You know, that was cold for them. Just,
wow. Yeah, we'd be sweating and wearing shorts and t-shirts.
Exactly. But, you know, if you're 5 degrees north of the equator, 80 degrees is chilly.
That's incredible. It's hard to believe. But I guess if you're used to it your whole life, I guess it is cool because you don't experience those temperatures, right?
Yeah, they are a t-shirt, short, and flip-flop society. Let me tell you, that's about all you need there.
Right on. Well, if you guys don't know, this is Richard Thornton. He's one of my friends. His company is American Note Capital, right, Richard?
That's right.
Right.
Coming to you live from San Francisco Bay Area.
All right. You're in San Francisco. I am Indianapolis. Actually, I'm in LaPel, Indiana, but we're based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. So we're kind of spread across the country, almost east-west.
Almost.
So you guys that are watching on YouTube, you should be able to comment at any time that you want, and your comments will pop up here, and we'll bring them up throughout the meeting today. And we'll talk about any questions that you have and get them answered for you. And if you're on Facebook, you have to allow StreamYard so that your picture and your name can pop up on here. Otherwise, you come up as an unknown user, and we don't really know who you are. Not that it matters, but it's fun to just know some of our friends that are out there that want to make comments or have any questions about what's going on. We'll save most of our Q&A to the end of the presentation today. And so without further ado, Richard, you got any questions?
I'm good to go. Let's go.
All right, let's go ahead and start this presentation. All right, so Richard, as we typically do, we got little housekeeping items we got to go through here. So big disclaimer, Richard and I, we're not attorneys, we're not tax consultants, and we're not financial advisors. We just kind of talk about our experiences through the note investing business and kind of show you guys what we do and things we come across, and especially what to look out for. Okay, we have some sponsors for our meetup. If this wouldn't be possible without some sponsorship. So my company, Bright Path Notes, we've got the deal flow to make your cash flow. Check out our note deals page. That's up there on your screen, brightpathnotes.com/note-deals/. And you can find the latest deals that we have available for sale. Most of them are our inventory, and some of them are some of our friends and clients as well that post to there. So reach out to me at justin@brightpathnotes.com if you have any questions. Our local RIA club, CIRIA as they call themselves, Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association. Vicki Perry is our main contact there. She's got her phone number, and her email is executive-director@ciria.club. They are not affiliated with the National RIA Group. We're kind of our own RIA club. It's a very big club. We got almost 1,000 members right now. We've got tons of vendors that are part of it. I'm one of the vendors that are part of it as well. So if you're looking for other Indiana deals and stuff, if you're not into fully into note investing, then they're an organization that you want to be a part of. So good organization, tons of free education. Our good friend Dickie Baldwin at BAG, or Baldwin Advisory Group. He is our due diligence guy. So he has a lot of different title reports you can go after. And if you're doing property inspections or BPOs, he knows the real estate agents in pretty much all the areas to go after and get. And he does the customer service management for you. So you order with him, you get your reports, and he handles everything in between. It's a pretty sweet little deal. Following up with Cyria, since our RIA group is a part of this meetup and this meeting, we want to make sure you guys know how to follow them on social media. So they have a Facebook page, they have an Instagram account, and they also have a LinkedIn page as well. And their YouTube channel has tons of information on it. I mean, tons of free information. We have attorneys and other people that get on there and showcase their what they see in the business as it relates to Indiana and real estate, or across the country and what's going on as well. So very cool. So the PHP credits, for those of you that are part of Cyria, you pay attention to this. You can take your smartphone out. You can put your camera, wave it over that QR code there. It should pop up a link for you to log in for your PHP credits, or you can just enter in this URL address that shows up on your screen, http://bit.ly/Cyria notes. All right. So Indiana State RIA, speaking of RIAs, right? They have, it's comprised of a lot of different RIAs in Indiana. So it's one big organization, and there's a lobbying effort is what they do. So April 15th to the 17th, 2021 at the Sheridan Hotel in Indianapolis, it's going to be part live and part in Zoom. They're going to have speakers and showcasing other vendors and stuff for our state RIA event, and all the money and proceeds goes towards lobbying effort, more or less for Indiana, for our state legislation and stuff. We've had actually a couple of laws passed in our favor because we've been able to lobby and raise money and get things taken care of. It's mainly for our landlords that are getting hit the hardest. Right. With some of these rules and regulations. And so we're able to go and fight those things and get those things to turn not in favor of the landlord, but just be more fair for the tenant and the landlord both. So anyways, you can register now, take advantage of the early bird specials. You can call that phone number, 317-670-8491. Right. So Richard, I know you know about this. So I'm a co-host on a podcast called The Two Wealth Show. Me and my good friend Super E. We are on all the podcast directories that are audio. And we film this thing on our video portion of it as well. Check out our YouTube channel, and you can find the Two Wealth Show playlist, and it's listing all of them. Actually, today, Richard, we came out with episode 5, I believe, of our season 3. So we're in our third season. So we have, I don't think this was an interview this time, but the time before that, we interviewed Brett Snodgrass, one of our good friends. So we try to interview people every other episode. And we just find different people across the country to interview and talk about building wealth. So that's one of our other ventures here. It's free. It's free. And then it's free. All right. Today,
it's free. What's that? No, I just say it's free. It's amazing the information that you give away for free, Justin.
I know. I should be charging this stuff. If there was a coin slot on your computer, I would just say to go ahead and throw in some coins for me. Help me out.
Ching ching.
Happy to provide information, folks. If I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people providing free information for me as well. So our agenda today for March 10th, we're going to talk about the note basics, which we do every time. We kind of, for those of you that are on the call right now or watching the replay, you're probably going to maybe not understand what note investing is. Don't worry. We're going to walk you through kind of what note investing is and how do we come across these deals and kind of lightly explain that. So we'll kind of get you up to speed a little bit. We're definitely going to talk about the mortgage industry right now as it relates to the forbearances and the moratoriums and things like that. We've been talking about this for a year. We want to update you guys on what we know with the data that we have, and Richard and I will talk about that. And then we're going to end today's broadcast on what I call the 3 factors, and Richard, we'll get into that towards the end. All right. So if there aren't any questions or anything on the comment board, please leave a question or a comment. If we don't answer it live, we will answer it in what we'll call kind of the after party after the broadcast is kind of over with. And then you can stay for more Q&A afterwards, but we'll try to bring up some of these questions during the presentation today.
Now, last after party got kind of wild. Are you sure you want to have something that's, maybe a little bit more toned down this time?
With what?
Just teasing. We had a lot of fun. We had a good banter going.
Yeah.
With people asking different questions about how-tos, and it was
Yeah.
great. I hope everybody can join us.
Yeah, you can have questions about what we're talking about tonight, or just questions in general about the note business. Or if you need some fashion help, Richard can definitely help you with that.
From California, that's right.
For California. So, all right, let's get into the notes basics, Richard. A lot of people have an idea of what note investing is, but this kind of really visually shows you how we get into these notes. So for those of you on the call that don't understand, this is the part where you want to pay attention. All right. So when we have a house for sale, we have a buyer and we have a seller, right? So the seller of the house, they hold the deed, right? They own the house, and you're going to go to a title closing, right? And the buyer is going to give the seller typically a down payment, and they need to fund the rest of the transaction from a bank. Okay. They're going to get a note and mortgage from a bank. Now, the bank, they hold that piece of paper. They are the owner of the note and mortgage. Okay. So they don't actually own the house, but they secure that investment with the house. That's why you see that chain and lock there on that house. So what this does is it says the buyer, they actually become the borrower. All right. And they own the house, and then they have a debt on it, which is the mortgage note. Okay. So how does this world work when Richard and I invest in notes? Well, this is where it's going to happen. Okay. So you see the bank owns the note, the buyer, the homeowner, the borrower, however you want to call them in this scenario, they own the house, and you have this investor over here now that's wanting to invest in this mortgage note. This investor can be a retirement account. It can be an LLP, an LLC. It can be a trust. It can be just whatever has a lump sum of cash. You can actually do this in your personal name, although we don't recommend doing that, but you can. So if you have a lump sum of cash, this is what's going to happen. You're going to purchase that that mortgage note from, let's say, the bank in this case. Okay. So you see how that changed hands? So the mortgage company, the bank, is going to sell the note to the investor. The investor is going to give cash, lump sum cash, to the bank. And notice how the homeowner, nothing changed for them.
Why would a bank want to sell a note?
That's a great question. Banks just want to get this debt off of their books because they want to re-originate loans, right? If a bank has $10 million, let's say, to lend, and they lend $6 million, they have that money out working for them. That's great that they're making some passive income. But what happens when they have more people wanting to get loans from their company, from their bank? Well, they don't have enough to lend, right? So they start selling these things off. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, these other GSEs are developed so that they can take loans and buy them from these banks at typically the closing table when you go to close on a loan. So if you get a bank loan from Bank of America or one of these big banks, typically Fannie and Freddie will just buy that paper from them at the closing table. So that way the banks can get their money back that they lent out, and then they can make all the money with the fees they put up front, the origination fees, the appraisals, and things like that. Sometimes they hold the notes for a little bit, and they can take all the interest they can out of it. So that's a little longer conversation, but thanks for bringing that up, Richard.
Hopefully so actually, though, since we're in the private mortgage note industry, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac becomes the secondary market for conventional mortgages. In a way, we become the secondary market for private mortgages. Is that correct?
Yeah. That is correct. That is correct. So we're talking about bank paper in this situation, just for the clarity of the call right now. So this homeowner, so they don't have to pay the bank anymore, but they pay the same amount. Nothing changes for them. Instead of paying the bank, they're paying the investor now. So you see how the money just went from, instead of going to the bank, it goes to the investor. Pretty clean, pretty simple. And that's visually how it is done. So 2021, we're finally here. We've gotten through 2020. But some things are lingering since 2020. When COVID hit, I think a lot of things were affected, Richard, in about March of 2020. And so one of the things that you and I have discussed quite often, and other people in the note business, is the Mortgage Credit Availability Index. And so I got this off the Mortgage Bankers Association website. And what this kind of shows, and maybe Richard, you can dive into this a little deeper, is basically the available credit that an individual has to be able to go get a loan. So it's the credit availability. So basically, the higher this graph goes, the looser the parameters are that the bank allows you to get a loan. And the lower the graph is, the harder and more constricted or more confined the parameters are for borrowers to go out to get loans.
So why would they? Why would the banks have constricted during COVID?
Well, they are asking. Well, I think the big headline back in March or April of last year, I remember this. I want to say it was Chase Bank. I can't stake my life savings on it, but I want to say it was Chase Bank that said that the new credit score minimum was like a 620, or I'm sorry, a 720.
Right.
And they had to have a 20% down payment.
Right. Which makes it pretty tough for most people to buy a house.
Right. So what's 20% on a $200,000 house?
Right. And there's generally COVID, as we all know, caused a whole lot of insecurity in the market. Nobody knew where everything was going. They didn't know if they were going to be able to pay their bills or anything like that. So even though the Fed kept rates down, there was a whole lot of uncertainty, and to offset that, as you just said, credit scores had to go up, and so did down payments.
So the people with the best credit, right, are able to take advantage of all these refinances going on, right? Mm-hmm. So that if you notice, the interest rates had dropped quite a bit, even from March till they are now. I think they even dipped under 2% in some cases for maybe a 15 or 30-year mortgage. Richard, I didn't keep up with it too closely because I knew a 2% mortgage was just plenty low enough.
Amazing.
And I've never seen this before, and who knows if we'll ever see this again in our lifetime, depending on how old you are, I guess. If we'll see rates like this again. But the best borrowers have definitely gone through this cycle and have been able to refinance. And so now, since we've gotten through a cycle of those borrowers, there's a lot of people that are left going like, okay, I'm not qualifying yet, but hopefully I'll qualify soon. But hopefully that little mark there that says 124.6 is going to inch up a little bit more as we go on. So 2008, same thing happened, right? 2009, 2010, and then the banking industry just changed and they really tightened up credit, the ability to go out and get loans. And then it kind of loosened over time until it got to about 2019 December, let's just say, on that graph, and where it was, back to where a lot of people could get loans. And now it just tightened up quite a bit.
Yeah, Justin, I think a lot of people too don't know what that means. One of the things that means is that there's going to have to be more private mortgages out there, more seller carryback financing, because banks are going to be unwilling to lend. And a lot of people think, well, gee, $100,000 mortgage or even a $200,000 mortgage, how big of an industry can that be? But last year, nationwide, there was over $25 billion worth of these notes made. Now that's minuscule compared to the overall mortgage market, but that's still a lot of mortgages. There's a lot of activity out there for guys like us. Yeah,
and just imagine the balance on those things are probably less than $100,000 too.
Oh, significantly, yeah.
A lot more of them than there are. I think the median home price now is over $250,000 across the country,
something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, if you just imagine, 2.5 times less than what the amount of mortgages there are right now, which the documentation I think that says is close to maybe 60 million mortgages, 50 to 60 million mortgages is what we kind of document with some of the data that we have right now. But we know there's a ton more out there than that, right? That aren't documented, meaning they're not recorded with the county.
Right.
Snapshot of what's going on right now. Delinquencies are a bit of a problem, right? We got about 11 million current delinquencies just across everything right now. Let's break this down quickly. 2.1 million loans are 90 plus days behind on their mortgage payment. This means like bank type of paper, FHA, VA, GSE loans, things like that. That's what we're talking about. 8.8 million household tenants are behind on rent. So which one's more of a problem?
I would say
this is not
both. They're both problems. Yeah. So in this instance, so I just got news just a couple of minutes ago that apparently the House has now passed the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. What's the effect of that on all this, do you think?
Well, I guess the answer is we don't know yet, but we can guess, right?
Mhm.
We are assuming, based on the last time a relief came through last year, is that they're going to help individuals that are at a certain monthly, annual income, and they're going to give some relief to them in a form of a payment, right? Whether it's $1,000, $1,600, $800, whatever that number is. And they're probably going to have some programs. I can imagine they might have a landlord relief package. They might have some sort of relief package for real estate investors. I don't really know yet because I haven't read all the details of it, but I'm assuming that there's going to be some relief somewhere, and they're probably going to help out borrowers and tenants the most, which is obviously what this problem is facing us right now.
I agree.
So I don't think it's doom and gloom in the future for just millions of foreclosures to happen all at once. We're going to get into more data here in a minute to show you what's been happening and why we don't think it's going to be as bad as it looks right now on the screen. All right. So this stat and stats that are going to follow this slide here are all based from Black Knight Financial Data. That's just the source that I use. They have a report that comes out monthly, and they just kind of give an update on the heartbeat of the mortgage industry and what mortgage payers are doing, and if it's going up, if it's going down, how this is all moving and shaking here. So in January, it looks like the change in delinquency rate is moved down, which is a positive thing, right? The lower delinquencies we have, the more stable we are. Foreclosures obviously are down because guess what? Not a lot of counties are allowing foreclosures to happen right now because of the the foreclosure moratorium. Some counties are. Let's see. Starts remain muted. I like how they put that word muted in there. They're down more than 86% year over year. Well, we kind of know this because we're not allowed to do foreclosures. So it's kind of like these numbers don't really make a lot of sense because we're not comparing to what normal is. But the prepayment activity is down 17%. And so what that tells me, like we were talking about before in a couple slides ago, is that all the borrowers that are A+ credit, maybe B credit borrowers, they've gotten their refis, right?
Right.
They've taken advantage of the fact that they can get a super low interest rate. They've got appreciation on their home. Okay. So they've got it made right now. They have lowered their payment. Things are looking good for them. The ones that couldn't qualify, that's where we're at right now. So we're going to see the prepayment activity kind of go down because they're not able to refinance, get out of their house, sell it, or refinance what they have and get in. They're building their equity, right?
Right.
So,
why can't they qualify, Justin?
Well, they've probably hit the mortgage credit availability index problem that most borrowers are running into, to where they don't have enough down payment, or they don't have a high enough credit score, or they don't show good debt to income ratios for a bank to allow them to get a loan.
So does somebody have to have bad credit to not qualify, or does something just like thin credit?
I like thin credit. That's a good term.
What is thin credit?
Well, I don't know the exact numbers right now, but if you don't have at least a 680 credit score, you're probably not going to have a chance to get a loan unless you have a substantial down payment. And I'm talking a 50% down payment. You may be looked at from a credit union, or probably not what I call a first degree bank. Okay. So the private mortgage business, or the private lending business, is going to be where all of this opportunity is for us as real estate investors.
Right.
So lending on this real estate, and people don't have, let's say, horrible credit. They just have life circumstances that happens. And this bar that the banks are setting for this credit score is just not attainable for most people. Right.
Yeah, I think also a lot of folks out there, especially from the Midwest. I may live in California right now, but my mom was from South Dakota and my dad was from Arkansas, and beyond that was good Norwegian stock that literally came over on the boat. But my dad was very, very proud of the fact that he had a home mortgage and a car loan, and that was it. And he today would be considered thin credit. He paid all his bills, but he did a lot of it in cash. He wrote checks back then. FICO would not like him.
Right.
He would have a hard time getting a loan, but yet he was perfectly creditworthy, paid all his bills, never missed any payments, but he had thin credit.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up. So a lot of people are very smart with their money, and they don't over leverage themselves or take on a lot of debt because of that fear, right? They just don't want to have that hanging over their head going, I need to pay somebody back. I need to pay somebody back, right? Those are borrowers that I would love to have, that I would definitely lend to, right? They're not a problem for us, but they're just a problem for the banking industry.
Exactly.
Because they don't meet the whatever their standards are going to be set, right?
They don't fit in the box.
They don't fit in the box. They don't fit in the box, right? All right. This is one of my favorite graphs because, quite frankly, it goes up and down. It looks like a roller coaster, and I think it would just be fun to write on that. So 2010, 2011, right around there is where that peak was. We'll just call it 11% because it's pretty close to that. And where we are today is 5.85%. So we're looking at the dark blue line. This is our national delinquency rate. It has gradually gone down from 7 3/4 that I think it hit in June or July. It's been gradually, well, I would say it's sharply going down because that's what it looks like, sharply going down. Mm-hmm. So this number is getting very close to what normal is. So we've gotten through the worst of it, and now it's just slowly just tapering off and getting lower and lower. What's the number going to end up being? Well, at lowest, last year before COVID hit, I think it hit just close to 3%, maybe 3.2% delinquency rate, which is extremely low, which means we're in a really strong economy.
So during the recession, when we had the worst of the worst, how high was the mortgage delinquency rate?
Double digits?
Yeah. I mean, your chart kind of shows us here what that was. It was actually, if you go through the Mortgage Banking Association statistics, you'll find out that only 10.84% of the mortgages, first trust mortgages, were delinquent or in default during the worst point of the recession. So you have to ask yourself, well, why did that throw us into recession? It's because a whole lot of adjustable rate mortgages that were seconds were put on houses, and 45% of those went into default. And that's what took us down.
Right.
But it's helpful to know that which we are investing in, which is first trust, we're really pretty safe, even in the worst market.
So do you like to say that there was 11% delinquency rate or an 89% success rate?
I like to say that in the worst of times, the delinquency rate never exceeded 11%.
Just 11%.
Because we're all looking for mitigating factors, right? And for the most part, we invest in loans that are notes that are aged, seasoned, more than 2 years old. The National Mortgage Bankers Association will tell you that 80% of defaults happen in the first 2 years of a mortgage life. So we're beyond that. So that increases your chance of success a lot. Plus, as you just said, the delinquency rate nationally is really quite low.
Yeah. Well put, Richard. That's why I have you on the call. My guy. All right. So another graph here from Black Knight Financial Data is the remaining COVID-19 impact on serious delinquencies. So we're looking at state by state here. I know it's hard to read these numbers. It got blurry. I'm sorry. I just took a screen capture of this report and put it up here. But let me kind of let you get a feel for what's going on. So the lighter the color, the better the numbers. The darker the color of the state, the worse the numbers are. So you notice Alaska and Hawaii, which don't get talked about a whole bunch, they are high up on the list here. We got 4.5% for Alaska and 5.2% for Hawaii. You can imagine Hawaii got hit hard because of tourism, right? Mm-hmm. So Texas got hit pretty hard. Florida got hit hard. Louisiana got hit hard. Nevada got hit hard as well. California did not get hit that hard, but they have a very large population. So the next screen here is just going to show us that we have the worst in percentages, and then we have the worst by number. So California got thrown into this category just because they have a larger population. So let's not let that deceive us here. 5.2%. It doesn't seem that bad, does it?
No, not really.
So I think everything looks hunky-dory. I kind of focus on the Midwest and see what the Midwest is doing in these numbers. And I don't see very many of these, we'll call the top 10 delinquencies for 90-plus day delinquent borrowers. Not really in there too much. I see Illinois in there. That could be a population thing. Ohio.
I think also you have to look at the sort of the job market and the offset. I mean,
Yeah.
You can look at California, but we still have an extremely robust economy out here with all the universities and the tech and everything like that. So there'll be a very quick bounce back once the restaurants and everybody else opens up. Because a lot of these, unfortunately, are people who have hourly wage jobs.
Yeah, I agree. New York City and the California big cities. Yeah, I agree. Once the restaurants are allowed to be, fully open and stuff, I agree. Things are going to change big time.
Mm-hmm.
And the vacation spots too. Vacation cities across the country. So this is another really cool graph I like to show how things aren't really that bad, right? So the current status of COVID-19 related forbearances, this data is caught up all the way to February 23rd. So it's pretty recent. So this big green part of the pie are loans that were in forbearance that have been removed or expired and they are re-performing. So that's a good thing. 42% of forbearances are being removed and expired to get re-performing. That's a huge chunk. That's a very positive thing. This little gray sliver down here at the bottom is loans that have paid off. So those are probably the borrowers that took advantage of the fact that their home has appreciated and there's low inventory and they probably sold their house before they could click the button that they want to sell it, with multiple offers. And that 12% is who have gotten out of their forbearance as well. So those that went into forbearance, they sold their house, it's paid off, or they refinanced their mortgage, right? That's where that 12% comes in. So a total of 54% of forbearances are coming out, either reperforming or the loans have been paid off. So that's a very good sign. So whatever this number is, let's call it 2 million, we're going to pretend like 50% of it are going to somehow get removed because of some positive factors of what we've seen these trends are happening over the past year. All right. The other little tiny slivers are people that are either still in active forbearance, the delinquent ones, the ones that have been removed and expired, but they are delinquent, and the people that are in active loss mitigation. 6.9 million forbearance. It's hard to believe there was that many.
It is, but I also think a lot of people are going to come out of those, given what's going on with the stimulus package and everything like that, and it'll be a blip. Yeah,
I think so too. I don't think it's going to be a big daunting factor. There are several people on Facebook that are real estate people that are thinking there's going to be this huge influx of forbearances and short sales and stuff. I think there's going to be more, right? But I don't think it's going to be a waterfall like it was in 2011, 12, 13, 14.
I agree.
I think it's going to be a lot milder than what appears. But hey, I don't have a crystal ball, but I got
to the big thing is that the economy is still strong. I mean, we still added jobs. So that is one huge difference, was that the economy was sliding in the previous recession.
That was a financial crisis, and this is a pandemic, right?
Right.
Different. Okay, so status of loans that left COVID-19 related forbearances. Here's a bar graph that kind of shows each, we'll call them sectors of loans that are created. So we got FHA, VA, GSEs, portfolios, private securities, and then the total market. All these blue bars in there that are the thicker portions, that's good things. Those are either paid off or they're performing. The green and the red is where they're delinquent or active loss mit, or they're out of loss mit and they're in limbo until they're going to be foreclosed on. So those smaller pieces of the bar graph there is what is the bad stuff, we'll call them. So it doesn't look that bad to me.
No, that's pretty. That delinquent sliver is pretty small.
Right on. All right, Richard. That was our mortgage industry update. So we're going to talk about the 3 factors. This is going to be a little bit fun. Well,
So
it's
do you need a drum roll or something like that now? Ding.
right.
Okay.
All right. So you know that old saying from just a business, if you want something, we offer you 3 kinds of service. I think they call it the unattainable triangle, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. You want something, you want your product good, right? You want it cheap and you want it fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can only pick 2 of the 3.
Right.
So which one do you want, right? So good and cheap, it's not going to be fast. Fast and good, it's not going to be cheap. And cheap and fast, it certainly won't be good, right?
Right. Usually.
So this is the unattainable triangle, right, in business.
Mm-hmm.
But your note investing is not really that different from that.
How so?
And what I mean by that is the expectation for first-time note buyers is unattainable, right? It is, they want the highest yield, they want the strongest pay history, and they want, the Taj Mahal for the collateral, right? And they want the biggest discount. So we need to set the expectation of what reality is for what we're investing in. We're not investing in a $200,000 mortgage. We're probably investing in 4 $50,000 mortgages. Let's just say we had $200,000 of capital to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, we're diversified within our portfolio because we have 4 mortgages we have versus 1. So if one stops paying and you have 1 mortgage, well, your entire portfolio is gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have 4 mortgages and 1 stopped paying, then only 25% of your portfolio is hit, right? So this is why we like to invest in the lower balance assets. And as Richard, as you know, these things typically shoot off a higher return, right? If you're buying a $200,000 mortgage, the interest rate is not going to be, 7 or 8%, right? It's probably going to be a 4 or 5% rate mortgage.
Right. I looked at a $800,000 mortgage in just outside of Beverly Hills about a month ago.
Yep.
And the biggest differential I could get was about 1%. And that's really not enough to, make a spread, to sell it, to keep it. It's not going to work.
Right. So
before you go, though, I do want to say one quick thing. So somebody would say, well, gee, if you have an $800,000 note, why did they have to get a private mortgage? And a lot of people think it's because somebody had bad credit. No, actually, the guy who owned the note was a superstar in the technology world, but he was from India. Mm-hmm. Didn't have Americans. He was here on a green card, didn't qualify for a mortgage, and so therefore had to get a private note. That's another good reason why something like it happens.
Thanks for bringing that up. I don't talk about that very often, but you're right. There are more of those people out there than we realize that come over here from other countries and just settle in for 6 months to 12 months because their company wants them, over here, and they need help, right? They typically can't pay cash for a house like that, but they do need the help. So
yeah, especially in your area or more, say in Wisconsin, Michigan, and all that. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people working in America that are from Canada and aren't citizens. And so therefore they don't qualify either.
Who'd have thunk? All right. So there are many factors to notes that give it its value. We can argue there's 6 or 7 factors. Okay. That's what I tell people that give the value of their note. But we're going to condense this down to 3 because there's really 3 main things that people are looking at when they're looking at performing loans we'll talk about. And realistically, you're going to end up picking 2 of these 3. It's kind of like the unattainable triangle, right? You want it good, you want it fast, you want it cheap. Well, you have to pick 2 of them. So in the note world for performing loans, we're going to focus on the conversation for today. Realistically, you're going to have to pick 2 of these 3 things. And the other one's not going to be as pretty or as nice as you want it to be, right? So we're going to talk about pay history, right? This is when the borrower shows their propensity to pay. It gives a track record. It shows a story of what they're doing here with making their payments. The yield, right, which is the return on investment. We measure that in yield because we're future guessing what the yield is going to be, right? ROI would be a return on investment. So the investment has to mature to be able to calculate an ROI. And then the collateral. It's what is securing this investment. What does it look like? What does that house look like? What does the property look like? So these are the 3 main things that we kind of focus on and look at. And Richard, you're only going to be able to get 2 out of the 3 that you're going to be super happy with. The other one you're going to have to settle with. Okay.
I'm going to try.
So we're going to talk through this in a couple of different scenarios. So these are some of the loans that I've kind of found or I've bought in myself over the years. I just want to show you what happens. So if you have strong pay history and you have a strong yield, your collateral is probably going to be weaker. It just is what it is, right? Because you can't have all 3 of them. Well, I can't say you can't have all 3 of them, but you're not typically going to find all 3 of them. Okay.
Harder to find. It
is. You're going to be sitting your cash for a long time and not deploying it. Collateral strong and your pay history strong, your yield's probably going to be low. So that's a lower risk investment, right? Mm-hmm. If your yield strong and your collateral strong, then your pay history is probably going to be a little bit weak. So I'm just trying to show you these factors here. So like I said before, if we're really dialing it in and we have about 6 or 7 factors, it's going to be, all these things are going to be good or bad or kind of, they end up averaging out in the middle. So we're just going to focus on the 3 for this conversation to make it simple. All right. Here's your unattainable triangle with 3 circles, right? You got pay history, you got collateral, and you got yield. And you see right here in the middle is the perfect scenario, right? If you have all 3 of these things that are high and strong, that's obviously the best. And you'd buy those all day long, right?
Mm-hmm. I would.
You typically don't see that, right? You rarely see it. I've come across it every now and then. And it's not really that attainable. So just get it out of your mind, right? Mm-hmm. So pay history and yield, we'll focus on the first scenario. So this is where we see a strong pay history. And I apologize if this is smaller on your screen, but the left column is going to be the due date when the loan is supposed to be due, meaning the month and the day that it's supposed to be due on. And the column on the right of that is the pay date of when the borrower actually made a payment. So we're showing you a real pay history of, looks like, maybe 14 to 18 months worth of stuff. If you look at the bottom row of this pay history, you'll notice on the left, it says the due date is February 15th, 2021. And the pay date is February 9th, 2021. So that tells me that the borrower paid early, right, Richard? Mm-hmm. So if you go up from there in rows, you'll notice the trend is the borrower is paying early, almost every payment, right? Until it gets a little bit higher than they're paying just like on time.
Yeah, they're paying within what looks like 4 or 5 days of the actual due date, one way or another, and I'd call that stellar.
Yeah, it is a very strong pay history. Now, keep in mind, you can't always pay on the due date because of holidays and weekends and things like that when loan servicing companies don't collect payments. So it's impossible to pay on the first every single time, right?
So do you care if somebody pays by check or MoneyGram or direct deposit or anything like that?
When I first got in the note business, I did. I'm like, someone pays by credit card? Someone pays by MoneyGram? What the heck is going on here? But then I find out that's just typical for these styles and types of homes, right? They're working class folks in working class homes, and they don't have the same financial savviness as some of us do. So they pay how they need to pay, right? And so to me, as long as the money is coming in and when it comes in is far more important of how the money is presented to the loan service company. Like you said, MoneyGram, whatever, payday loan, whatever you said, and then check, or sometimes they even do ACH.
Mm-hmm. And what is an ACH again?
It's a something clearinghouse. It's a automated clearinghouse. I think is the definition for it. It basically means the servicing company will debit straight from their checking account and draft a payment when it's due.
Automatic payment.
Right. All right. So if the yield is strong in this scenario, we're going to look at a UPB, means unpaid principal balance. So it's about $21,700 left on this loan. The borrower pays $225 a month. They're paying a 10% interest rate, which is a really high interest rate. They have about less than 200 months left to pay if they continue to pay with these terms. And I could purchase this note for about $18,000, which would give me a 13% yield on my money, which is a very high return for a passive investment.
For something that you've got a really good pay history like that on, you're right. You've got a great yield and you've got a great pay history.
So on paper, this deal looks stellar, right? You're already thinking, Justin, how do I get you the money to get this deal for me? Well, hold on a second. hold on a second. All right.
Well, hold on, big guy.
Right. So the collateral is what's going to be weak about this deal. Now, some people can stomach this and some people can't. So this deal is not for everybody. But let's just look at the facts here. So the pay history was really strong. The person's paying early and they're paying on time and early, and the yield is really high. But what happens with this collateral is that if I bought it for $18,000, it's only worth $19,000. I don't have a lot of room here, right?
You probably couldn't fix it up for $1,000 and sell it, right?
I don't think so, Richard.
Yeah, probably couldn't get out even at all.
Right. I see when the property inspection was done, there's a boarded up window here on this side. It looks like it's halfway painted. I see some junk in the yard that's built up. On this picture on the right, notice the gas meter's missing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Over here, the corner of the house is missing, right? Blocks of the foundation have been removed. This house is uninhabitable, right? No one's living in this house. This is not, no one's living in it. So why is somebody paying on it? I have no idea. I've heard of crazy things, and this doesn't make sense. But you know what? Like I said, this deal may not be for everybody, but this is typically what happens when you have a really high yield. You have to question what's going on with the other two attributes that you're focused on, like pay history and collateral. And so in this case, the collateral obviously is not really worth a lot.
So how did you get these pictures?
So this is a property inspection. So I can hire an individual like Dickie Baldwin at BAG, and they will send out typically a real estate agent or somebody that's a BPO specialist, a broker price opinion specialist, and they'll go out and take real-time photos and, picture the front, the left, the right, the street, the back if they can. And if they notice things that are damaged, they'll get a close-up picture of that to show you what's going on. So before I buy an asset, I make sure that I know exactly what it looks like and that it is the right asset, right? Because sometimes you don't realize it's the wrong house that you're looking at until
Can they go inside?
I'm sorry?
Can they go inside?
No. No, you don't own the house. You don't go inside, right?
Okay.
Yep. Good question, though. So that's the first scenario. Let's go to the second scenario here. So we have collateral and we have pay history. So we're saying the collateral is going to be strong. So this particular house is a really nice house. I'm trying to remember I think this is maybe in Midwest. And so it's a really strong collateral. You can't tell by this picture, but I remember this because it was in my portfolio at one time. But the roof is a metal roof. So they obviously spent extra money and got a nice metal roof on there. Everything's in really good condition. You can
Somebody went by and put a star on the front too, so it's really special.
I think that's just what they do in some of this rural area, right?
You get stars when you're in elementary school. You're always trying to get a star on it, right?
And then when you play football, right? Every time you make a tackle, you can get a gold star on your helmet.
That's right.
So you notice there's a boat, there's a carport, and there's a carport for a boat there. So obviously this looks like a really good situation. They really keep up the house very well. Very happy to see that. The borrower is paying on ACH. ACH, that's just an auto draft from their account and been paying since 2012. So this is like clockwork. This is a dream pay history here, right? Mm-hmm. Everything looks real good. So now we got to talk about yield. So the yield, as you would expect, is going to be lower. The balance on this is just under $50,000. They pay $425 a month. The rate is a 6% rate, typically because they're probably a stronger borrower. When the company that created this loan was underwriting the borrower, they probably saw that they had pretty good credit or they had a sizable down payment, right? So it's 157 months left on this loan. I could purchase it for $41,000. Now there's a decent sized discount in there, but the rate is 6%. So my yield overall is going to be about 8%, which is, I wouldn't say low, but it's starting to get moderate to mid-moderate.
Right.
So it wasn't as attractive as a 13%, right? Mm-hmm. But this is what you find when you have two strong points like this of collateral and pay history.
Right. But so this could still be, though, a very good candidate for somebody who wants to buy something like this and put it in their self-directed IRA and not worry about it, because they could put it away. They'd get 157 payments, probably just like clockwork, and an 8% yield that goes into their self-directed IRA, since it's not currently taxed, is more like a 10.5%, depending return
Yeah.
taxable depending on your tax rate.
That's a good way to look at it, and you're exactly right. So this is a set it and forget it in a self-directed Roth IRA.
Exactly.
Cool. The last scenario here, yield and collateral. So that means yield strong, collateral strong, and then we'll find out about the pay history. So we'll talk about the yield. So we got a balance of $33,000. The borrower pays $300 a month. They pay 10% interest rate. So we're like, okay, this is a very high interest rate loan. I like this. 300 months left. So there's a ton of interest left on this one, right? Stretched out for a long time. You can buy this for $27,000. All right. So it's a 12, almost a 13% yield, just like we saw in the example of the first one, right? This is, okay, I'm really excited about this. I don't typically get to see double digits, and now I see them and I like them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Collateral looks pretty good. It's in a typical, well, I don't know if you want to call this a bungalow style home, but it looks very clean. I don't see any damage to it. The foundation looks really solid. Everything's kept up well. Looks like the address number might be slightly crooked. Maybe a squirrel got to that. I see those little gutters are all going into one gutter and channeling down. So it looks pretty clean, cute little house. Let's see. So now let's look at the pay history. Now let's get into reality, right? So this is what's weaker about this deal. You notice, just like before, we have a due date on the left and we have a pay date on the right. The very bottom row, you see December 15th, 2020. And you see the pay date of February 23rd, 2021. So Richard, do the math for me here. That's more than 60 days, right?
That's right. So this is not it's not ringing the bells in terms of your 90 days late, but it's what we call a slow pay.
It's a slow pay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look further back in history, so you're going to go up in rows. You're going to notice I've highlighted some in yellow to show like it looks like they've made group payments. Okay. So that first set of yellow that was paid on January 22nd, 2021, it was trying to pay for September 15th, October 15th, and November 15th of 2020.
Right.
So they got kind of behind. If you look further back, you'll see there's a 5-payment group that happened right before the end of the year on December 28th, 2020. It paid for May, June, July, August, and part of September.
I'd say that the mortgage holder was getting kind of nervous on that one.
Yeah, you better believe it. Mm-hmm. And before that, they had made a 2-month payment. So they had gotten behind, and this is going to be a story that's going to be typical to this borrower. It looks like they're trying to get caught back up, which is fantastic. But this is what makes this deal weaker. There's something going on with this borrower. There's something happened. Maybe it wasn't their fault. Maybe they lost a job, or maybe the spouse lost a job and they struggled to get income. And the relief package may have helped them, and they may have been able to make these bulk payments last year to help get them kind of caught up. But this is a late payer for sure, and a rolling payer. And what'd you call it? A slow
payer. So, what we can mention here is that there are also what's called slow payers, and then chronically slow payers. And so they might pay in fits and starts, like this person here. And even though the criteria that we're covering here is very good in terms of yield and collateral and pay history, like everything else, there's gradations. And so somebody may look at this and go, well, gee, what's the yield? I can stomach this because I'm not going to try and sell this note or anything like that. I'm okay with that. So what kind of yield can somebody get on this?
Well, this particular one, I believe it was close to 13%.
Mm-hmm.
But is that really going to be 13% at the end of the day if they're not paying every month?
That's right.
And that's what the false perception is. So if you happen to find a loan, and let's just say you're going to some website and you look up a deal and you see it says like 14 or 15% yield, that should be a warning sign that something's wrong with this deal that's not making sense. Okay. So if your yield is super strong and your collateral strong, your pay history is probably weak. If your yield super strong and your pay history is strong, your collateral is probably really weak. So something is off with that deal if you see a very high yield investment. So typically people will want to look for yield as their primary reason for buying a deal or not buying a deal. But at the end of the day, if you have a couple of gas stations to choose from and they're all about a penny difference, is it really going to matter like which one you go to get gas from?
Right. And sort of to round this out a little bit, I looked at one recently, for an example, that I thought would hit all three of the bars here.
Yeah.
In other words, it had a great pay history. It had like a 14% yield on it. And I looked at the collateral and it's great. Pretty little house like the last one you just showed. I said, what's wrong with this picture? So I had to sniff around.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, I found out that the population of the town that it was in was about 500. Nothing wrong with that, but it had a 25% poverty rate. And this was by far the best house in the entire town. So you had no exit. There was no way out of this house, which is much like the first one you showed us.
Right. Well, your radar needs to be, your ears need to be perked up when you see one of these things that are just too good to be true. It typically is. So
Right.
That's what we find in the note business.
Right. And that's kind of what makes it fun for me.
Yeah.
Is that if you love sleuthing around and finding some of this stuff, it's fun. And
Sleuthing around. I like that.
mm-hmm.
Richard, do we have any comments?
We do. Do you want them up on the screen?
Sure.
Okay. We've got from Michael, where do you capture this type of data?
Michael, you're probably referring to the mortgage industry update stuff. We get our data from Black Knight Financial Data. They're just a company that offers a free data report every month. And they just show, this report is very detailed, Michael. It shows a lot of information about what's going on in the business. I just grab a few little pieces of it that I think are important to our business and important for us to talk about and that are interesting to talk about. And so it's Black Financial Data. Black Knight Financial Data. The other slide I had was from the Mortgage Bankers Association. That's where I got the Mortgage Credit Availability Index.
Where do I get a pay history?
Where do you get a pay history?
Yeah.
You get a pay history from who you're buying this loan from.
Okay.
Right.
All right. And Mark has just given us a compliment. He said, great information. And thanks very much, Mark. We always appreciate things like that.
Mark Dolfini is the landlord coach.
Ah, okay, great.
Yeah, he wrote a book called The Time Wealthy Investor. You guys check it out on Amazon.
Good.
Yep. So let's move forward. So an educational company course, if you will, that actually Richard and I are a part of is called Constant Cash Flow. So the idea behind this is we are educating investors to be note investors, and you're going to get a foundational knowledge of exactly what we're talking about and how we do this stuff. We're talking about due diligence, how to look at deals and analyze them and figure out where you want to place them, like in a company account or in a retirement account, and talk about different strategies like partials and hypothecations and things like that. So it's learning the note business and starting with the basics, the real basics, right? We've got videos and a training course, if you will, and there's going to be a quiz or a test, if you want to call it that, Richard, so you can pass and go to the next level, because we want you to have a great foundational knowledge before you're ready to talk about more advanced subjects. And then we'll also have a subscription model where you can buy into some webinars and get some live training that way as well. So look for that coming around the June 1st timeframe this summer, and we'll have that available for sale for you guys to have some education if you choose so.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to probably start with performing notes because that's where you get a good foundation.
Exactly.
And then we will take it more into non-performing notes, maybe even seconds, and what they call structured finance deals, where you can do wrap mortgages and things like that. There's just a whole lot of fun we can have with this.
Absolutely. It's like you said before, Richard, I love this business too because it's so unique. Every time I get a note deal in front of me, it's not the same as the last deal or a deal I've done before in the past. There's some little nuance about it that makes it challenging and makes it fun. So that's what we love about the real estate notes. Richard, the next time we meet is going to be Wednesday, April 14th from 6 to 8 p.m., just like this, live on our YouTube channel and Facebook page and our Facebook private group. Follow me on social media, Bright Path Notes on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can hit me up on LinkedIn if you like. My name's Justin Bogard. My email is justin@brightpathnotes.com. Richard, I'll go ahead and let you give your thing.
I'm Richard Thornton. I'm with American Note Capital. You can find my YouTube channel, and I've got lots of videos and things that you can learn from there. I'm Richard at amnotecap.com.
All right, guys. Bring more questions onto the call tonight. We're gonna end our broadcast part, and we're gonna do some more Q&A afterwards. So after these messages, go ahead and stay tuned, and we'll bring you some more entertainment, if you will.
We've got a couple queued up, and we'd love to have some talk. We had a really good chatter after the last meeting.
All right. Stay tuned, guys. All right, brother. Let's get into some more Q&A. So how do you think we did today, Richard?
I think we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did.
I always do, man. It's always great to have you on too. I appreciate you getting on board with us.
No, I enjoy it. Michael's got another question here. Let's bring that one up. To Richard's point, shouldn't the exit strategy have first priority?
Yeah, there is no wrong answer here. It's yes, it can. Everybody has a different way they look at notes. I look at notes and investing in notes probably a different way than Richard does. I don't think we actually talk about this, Richard, but when you get a deal in front of you, Richard probably looks at it and he looks at 2 or 3 things first that I may not look at first. I may focus on one thing and he focuses on another because maybe his exit strategy is most important to him. And that's what he wants to look at. On non-performing loans, I think we can all agree exit strategy is probably what we focus on the most if we're going to lean towards foreclosure or if we're going to try and get this borrower to repay. That's probably ideal. But for performing loans, for me, I'm probably looking at pay history the strongest, and then I'm probably looking at the collateral, and then the yield's just going to follow suit on whatever those two end up being. How about you, Richard?
Right. Well, I would agree with all of that. I would also say, though, that as you said, it depends on what your strategy on that given transaction is. I've got one note that I will never sell. I've got a fantastic yield on it. It's on a little house in the south. It's got a tin roof. And I don't want an exit. The last thing I want to do is exit out of that because they've been paying like clockwork for the last 7 years now. And I could get out of it and probably sell it for what I've got in it.
Yeah. But
that one, I'm not looking for an exit. I want to stay in it. So like everything else in notes, the answer is yes, maybe, you know. And that's one of the things I like about it.
So what do you look for first in a performing loan?
I'm sorry?
What's the first thing you look at in a performing loan?
First thing I look at really is if I just went through my sequence, my underwriting sequence is I actually look at the house. I hop on Google Drive. I look at the house real quickly, look at the neighborhood, and give it a through F grade. Next thing I do is go through the payment history. If it passes on both of those, then I've got a whole other sequence I go into. But those are the 2 biggest things that I look at. How about you?
So pay history, obviously, is what I'm looking at first, and then I'll do a drive-by on Google.
Yeah. So let's see. Next quote or next question. Are these states to avoid? Mississippi, Iowa, Illinois, Hawaii, Georgia, etc. What do you think?
Yeah, to a lot of those.
Yeah, some of them.
I avoid most of those states because number one, I don't know a lot of the rules and regulations there, and number two, I don't find that those have the best deals. People that do invest in those states probably know what they're doing and they know how to make the right moves to make it conducive for them. So there's tons of people that invest in New Jersey, New York. I don't invest there. To me, it looks like the foreclosure timeline is a lot longer and it's a lot harder to go through that stuff. But then again, I don't have an attorney there that I got in my back pocket that knows how to move around the judicial system and get things moving and shaking like they need to be. I have invested in Mississippi before, in Iowa and Illinois. Not been to Hawaii yet. I'd like to get a note and take it back in Hawaii. That'd be awesome. I've done Georgia and Florida. Have not done Maine. Done Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
Right.
I'm just messing with you. I know I misspell things all the time.
I really like Georgia, and these other states I don't like for different reasons. Obviously, New Jersey, New York, your foreclosure time is really long, but your yields are going to reflect that. So if you want a higher yield and you're willing to, let's say you've got good collateral and you got a good payment history, and maybe you sort of live up in that area, and as you said, you've got a lawyer that really knows what they're doing, then maybe you go ahead and do the deal. It depends on what your criteria is. Everybody's got different criteria, and I'll give you an example. I have one borrower out of Atlanta who wants anything I can show him within driving distance of Atlanta, because he likes to hop into his car with his wife on Saturday.
Yeah.
And once every couple months, they go around, they visit their properties. That's his criteria. As long as it's got a decent yield, he's happy. I've got another borrower who wants, or buyer who wants something in all different states, because he's afraid of hurricane damage and things like that. So he wants a whole bunch of different locations. Really depends. Let's see what our next question is here. Eugene says, will the 3 note factors determine the price you pay for a note?
Yeah, I think you've seen that in some of the scenarios. These questions may have come up through our presentation and they may have answered themselves, but it's just fun to walk through this stuff again. So the question is, what is the price going to be? Well, number one, it depends on what the seller wants to sell a loan for, but typically a seller is going to know what we'll call fair market value is for the note based on about 6 or 7 factors of a note. I know we're just concentrating on the 3 today, but yeah. So if you have strong pay history and you have strong collateral, you can expect the yield's probably going to be a little lower because investment is, we'll call it safer, right? There's no such thing as a safe investment, but it's a lower risk investment, right? So if your yield is higher, then there's either the collateral or the pay history has got something funky going on to it.
Right. Okay. Sean Gregory says, awesome information. Thanks very much, Sean. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah. So tell me in general what you sort of think the status of the market is right now. I mean, how do you see the performing note market?
Well,
in general.
How's that?
In general, in broad strokes here.
In general. Well, the performing note market has been really good for a while. When we went through this financial crisis in 2009, 2008, a lot of houses were foreclosed on. So a lot of these big hedge funds have gobbled up a bunch of these houses at very low prices. They put some money into them, made them a little more habitable, and they sold them to folks on seller financing. So there were a lot of these loans that were harvested or generated back in the 2012 to 2014 time frame. And I couldn't imagine how many thousands and thousands of loans that were created like that, but there were a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that paper has been sold and it's been trickled down to what we'll call us smaller investors that buy, 1 to 10 loans at a time over the past couple of years. And so most of that inventory is already been moved around from a couple of different hedge funds. What it looks like the horizon is we're doing another reset to where we've got another mortgage credit availability index problem to where borrowers are needing help getting affordable financing for their house. And so if more lenders like bigger hedge funds or individuals like us are lending to these borrowers, these deserving borrowers to get into this home, we're going to create more of these loans and we're going to have another big pool of loans to either keep ourselves or to sell off to other investors that are looking for the passive investment. So I think we've reached, the fourth quarter, if you will, with the performing loans that were created after that financial crisis. And I think it's just time to start generating more of those right now, because we're seeing it every week, Richard. We're seeing opportunities for people to create seller finance paper.
True. So should we be all jumping into non-performing notes right now?
Well, there are none, right? There's not any non-performing right now because no one is foreclosing, right?
No, but I mean, there's always a constant flow. But do you think that, like within the next month, let's say 2 months, that we're going to see this huge influx of non-performing notes?
That's a question that everybody keeps asking, and the answer is nobody really knows. And right now, I'm not going to worry about non-performing loans until I see them in front of me and be like, oh, those are some good deals. I'm going to get the opportunity and jump on it right now. It could be tomorrow, Richard. It could be next month. It could be a year from now. It could be 2 years from now. No one really knows until the eviction and the foreclosure moratorium is kind of lifted in general. And most of these counties are actually going to do foreclosures. There's probably counties that are doing foreclosures right now. I just don't happen to have any non-performing loans in our portfolio, so I'm not really staying on top of it. But from what I hear and what I gather is, there are non-performing loans out there right now, and there are loans that are getting further and further behind, and they're being traded. But we're not seeing the big trades yet at our level to where we can kind of go in there and be like, okay, we're going to start shopping here to see if there's any deals and we can help out some borrowers. I'm not seeing those right now.
Right. And since we really specialize in seasoned performing loans, and seasoned loans by definition are at least 2 years old, one would think that this new crop is going to take at least 2 years to get here, right?
Yeah, and you're exactly right.
Yeah. So tell me though, I've got a note that is 4 months seasoned, good pay history, nice little house, pretty strong borrower. Are you going to buy it? And sort of, what do you think about your yield requirements as opposed to what you're currently investing in?
Well, that's a good question. So you pique my interest when you say it's got a really good collateral and they got a really strong pay history. It is shortly seasoned.
But it's only 4 months. Yeah.
But I don't know what I don't know yet about this deal. So my thought is, if it has a small down payment, I'm probably not that interested because I don't feel like they have enough skin in the game. If they have a very significant down payment, then I feel like if they have enough skin in the game, then I don't mind pulling the trigger on a deal. People ask me, how many months seasoning do you pull the trigger on a deal to buy? And I said, I bought 1 month. And they go, why? I said, because the borrower had $100,000 house and they put down $50,000.
Right. So is your yield requirement going to be higher though on a loan with less seasoning?
Yeah, I would make my yield requirement higher on a loan with less seasoning. Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Michael says, great discussion. Thanks very much, Michael. We're enjoying it and hope that you are learning something yourself.
Exactly.
So what's something else that the crowd needs to know here in terms of locations?
Yeah.
Where would you, I mean, in addition to what we've already said, where would you not want to invest right now?
Well, I don't want to invest in the big major metropolitan cities like Chicago or New York City, like the really heavy population ones. I typically don't like shopping there. I don't really have a good reason why. I just don't end up shopping there. I like to shop in the Midwest and the southern states. And I don't mind being in a bigger city. I just don't want to be in a large city like, New York or Chicago.
What's your feeling about Detroit these days?
I bought 4 loans this week.
Okay. Where, in the burbs or downtown?
Suburbs.
Burbs. Okay. Because I would have to agree with you. I have 3 or 4 notes that I bought there on actually houses that look quite a bit like that last example that you had, where you said the address was a little bit crooked. But I'm thinking, what's wrong with this collateral? These neighborhoods never went down very far in the first place. And the city's on an uptick. So why not?
Absolutely. Now, the cost of living is very low there. So the houses look like, they sell for $30,000 or $40,000 and they look immaculate. Like the neighborhoods look immaculate. Like streets are swept clean. Like it looks really good. It's just cost of living is so low there. Everyone is afraid of Detroit, rightfully so, because they got hit the hardest, right, during the financial crisis. Well, I can't say they got hit the hardest. They got hit pretty hard. I mean, we can all kind of agree with that.
Mhm.
And so, but yeah, I've definitely invested recently there, and I look at down the street and I'm like, you can't pass up on these deals. I mean,
Right.
pass up on.
Right. So Michael's still listening. He says, I'm a first-time
doing,
note
Michael?
buyer. Where do I look for notes?
Well, it depends. Are you wanting to venture off on your own and find a deal and look at it and vet it and pay for it? Or typically what people, first timers do is they either get with somebody like Richard or myself. We'll call ourselves a note pro that have bought hundreds of deals before and helped hundreds of people out. And we can kind of hold your hand and walk you through the process of owning a note. So we can find the deals for you, because I'm sure Richard's run into just as many scenarios as I have, to where the sellers might not be representing their loan as if they really own it. It's a business out there that, unfortunately, there are shady people out there and they do shady things. And so if you don't know who you're buying from or know how to vet the seller, you're taking on some risk too. So there are exchange sites that you can go to on the web. I'm sure that if you Googled stuff, you can find loans for sale. Just be very cautious and very careful, and get a second opinion, especially on your first time, so that you don't buy something that's going to be a problem. Oftentimes people look at a deal and they're like, oh my God, this is a great return. Everything looks great about it. But have somebody put the second set of eyes on it. It's worth it. Even if it costs you a little bit of money, it's so worth it, so you don't get into a bad situation. Because there's a lot of things about loans that we don't discuss, because there's so much details about a loan after you buy it that you have to keep up with, that it's just, it takes an educational course to learn it. And
yeah, that's right. And we just happen to have one of those.
plant that seed there. But yeah, in all seriousness.
Yeah, so what I tell people a lot too is, if they're first-time buyers, is buy a partial. Maybe your yield's not going to be quite as high as a whole note, but partials are good for several reasons. A, you get to find out about the regularity or irregularity of the payment history, the collateral. You get me, or in your case, they bought one from you,
Yep.
As sort of an asset manager for free, because we don't get paid until after the partial investment. So for those of you who don't know, on a partial, if we have a 30-year note, it's 5 years old. So there's 5 years of credit history payments on it. 25 years left. We might sell the first 10 years of that note. We would assign that note to you, and you would get all of the payments. So we don't really get paid anything until after that period. So we have a very vested interest in making sure that's a good note.
Absolutely.
A lot of people like that security, and they also like getting the sort of freebie education too.
Absolutely. You're exactly right, Mr. Thornton.
So that's all the questions that we have at the moment. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up for the crowd?
No, we hit a lot of good information today. So this is going to be a good recording for a replay for those of you that are going to follow the replay on this.
Yeah, this is fun. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Rewind this and play stuff back that we said. And feel free to reach out to us, Justin@brightpathnotes.com. And Richard, your email again?
Richard@amnotecap. It's amnotecap.com.
Yep. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching the replay of this or being live in person. We appreciate it. A lot of great questions tonight. We appreciate that. We typically have several questions and leads to some great discussion. So if you ever need anything at all, feel free to reach out to me or Richard. We can definitely point you in the right direction if you need to, or we're happy to help you and walk you through a deal if you need that as well. That's kind of what we're here for, guys. So until April, I think it's 14th at 6 p.m. That's when we're going to have our next meetup. So we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys then.
All right. Great. See you, Justin.
See ya.